I've responded to all different types of anti-SJW in this series so far, from the A-listers like Sargon of Akkad and Undoomed, to the B-listers like the Satirictician and Nate Talks to You, and C-listers like War Korcz and Ranting Monkey.
And Irate Bear. Don't forget Irate Bear. You remember, Danny, the one I made a video response to you on. That's what this video is going to be about, isn't it?
Well, now it's time to respond to a Z-list anti-feminist known as Trash Alert.
Z-lister. Alright. Pot kettle black, my dude. Pot kettle black.
A poorly drawn trash can that one of my friends thought was a Photoshop joke at first. Unlike the plethora of rational apes and skeptical bears, I will give Trash Alert credit for one thing. His name is accurate, but not in the way he intended.
So what I want to talk about today...
Hey, what the fuck, Danny? I made a direct response to you on your Irate Bear video, which, by the way, I know for a fact you've seen. And you decide to respond to some random video from ages ago. You fucking knob. Of course you did. Because although Danny just implied that my name is fitting because I'm genuinely trash, he's the one that loves to go dumpster diving for old videos from months ago. So Danny, let me get this straight. You skipped my entire video of the Irate Bear response where I absolutely internet smashed your back doors in so that you could white knight for Marina Shut Up. Wouldn't it just be easier to admit your Irate Bear video was shit? Never mind. Fine. I'll play the hand I'm dealt. Let's look at my old video.
It is the dictionary definition of feminism. Should we use it? Should we not use it? Is it adequate? Let's discuss.
No, I don't reckon it is adequate. Mainly because defining any ideology simplistically is extremely difficult in practice because, in reality, the ideology of the individual is largely subjective. Feminists will often say anyone can be a feminist when trying to get men to join the cause, but they're right in more ways than one. Because of how broad dictionary definitions are, anyone can be feminist. Good, well-meaning people, as you appear to be from this video, and absolute scumbag wank-stained pooheads. Pooheads.
Well, in your first sentence, you just summed up the entire point of her video, which renders this response moot.
No, it doesn't at all. Danny, the title of my video was Marina Shut Up, I Have Your Solution. It wasn't about disagreeing with her that the dictionary definition was wrong. It was about offering my solution to the problem to see what she thought of it. If you had spent any time trying to understand what you were about to talk about, you'd have figured that much out.
But nope, you continued on. Do you know what anyone can be a feminist even means? It doesn't mean, I call myself a feminist, therefore I am a feminist. In other words, it doesn't mean that if Roosh V suddenly started calling himself a feminist, that he'd be one. It means that anyone can become a feminist. Anyone can support gender equality.
Yes, exactly. Anyone can support gender equality. Now, anyone can support gender equality by peaceful, respectful discussion, as me and Marina were doing here, or people can support gender equality by throwing tantrums, screaming at people, I'm reading fuckface, or completely misunderstanding points of conversation in videos with shit audio on the internet. Use your head, mate. Fuck.
Honestly, if I were a first-time viewer, the joke at the end would lead me to believe this was a parody channel, almost like a knockoff of Logical Llama.
Yeah, and if you hadn't have been a suspect in the doxing of Baron, or if you hadn't have been a shaken mess in the live stream debating him, I'd probably think you were just a joke as well.
As someone who discusses feminism, social justice, the like on the internet, I often run into conversations with people who don't necessarily share the same ideological leanings as I do. Dictionary definitions are meant to give you a very basic, rough idea of what a word means, but if you want to have a more in-depth discussion and a better understanding of that word, then it's better to use different sources and more in-depth specified texts. Like if I'm trying to learn about biology, for example, and I need to learn a specific term, I wouldn't look in Merriam-Webster to get the most in-depth definition of that word. I would look in a biology textbook because that's going to be more useful.
Okay, remember that biology analogy.
I wonder where this guy's going to bring up biology.
Yeah, that's just the gripping excitement I provide in my videos, Danny. What will he do next? It's a mystery!
My bet's on him taking the Thunderfoot approach and saying that gender dimorphism explains the women's choices part of the wage gap. Uh-oh. I said those 2 words that makes every anti-feminist have a meltdown.
Yeah, and here's the first of your many, many problems, Danny. Every anti-feminist? Bit of a blanket statement, no? You rely a lot on this video, and in other videos, on what you think an anti-feminist is, and not what I am, or what I think. It leads you to make some arguments that might be good if someone actually thinks what you're thinking they do, but it just ends up making you look like a dick when they don't.
And there's going to be more nuance to that. And I will admit that I have been a person in the past who, when I've been having conversations with anti-feminists or people who just don't necessarily identify or agree with every aspect of feminism, I've said the dictionary definition of feminism is someone who fights for equality. So if you're not a feminist, then you must not believe in gender equality.
Marina, shut up. I can't believe this. Not you, Marina. Not you. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Nah, don't care really. I'll forgive you and move on. Never mind.
So, I guess you didn't find it funny. That's okay. To be honest, watching it back for the first time in ages, I don't think it's that funny either. But 2 wrongs don't make a right, Danny. You shouldn't respond to a bad joke with a bad joke. In this case, of course, the bad joke being your entire video.
Looking back, I realize is not the most helpful argument to make, and in the end, neither person has come to a better understanding or has really been swayed either way. And on top of that, I've met a lot of self-identified feminists who I just adamantly disagree with.
Same here, Marina. Same here.
I'm guessing those feminists you disagree with are everyone not named Christina Hoff Sommers and Camille Paglia.
Here you go doing it again. Making assumptions. I don't think that at all, Danny. I'm guessing doesn't mean fuck all, mate. I'm guessing you could take 6 dicks in your ass. It doesn't make it true, does it?
In the past, I might even say that they're not real feminists because I don't believe that they're doing feminism correctly or whatever that means, but usually I use that as shorthand to mean that I don't think that they are as informed or as familiar with a wide variety of feminist theorists to get like a full picture of what intersectionality and intersectional feminism should look like. But I really don't know if I believe that that's the best way to go about tackling people I disagree with who identify as feminists, or even people that don't identify as feminists and want to talk about like the definition of feminism, because there are multiple types of feminisms and it's not one monolith where everyone agrees on everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's hardly a progressive definition, is it? You know, it's almost like it's more of a hindrance than a help.
So, what's exactly a hindrance? The unifying dictionary definition? Because that covers the basic idea of what feminism is for someone who asks, what is feminism? And needs or wants a quick answer. And it provides the basis for the different schools of feminism. Or are you saying that the different schools of feminism themselves are a hindrance? Does that mean that you want all feminists to be a monolith? Or are you saying that feminists of diverse ideas can't work together to accomplish something? In both cases, you would be wrong. Well, at least you didn't pull out the definition of Nazi as your counter-argument. That would have been embarrassing.
Well, if you watched the video before typing a load of shit, you'd find out exactly what I mean. So, let's continue.
I'm not sure if I find the dictionary definition of feminism as someone fighting for social, political, and economic equality as being specific enough. I don't know if I find it super useful because pretty much any person ever is going to say that they're for equality, but we could have very different ideas of how to achieve equality, and we could disagree. We could be on completely different sides of the political spectrum and, say that we're for equality. So I feel like using a broad definition like that might be helpful to an extent, but I don't know if I personally find it useful anymore the way that I might have found it useful in the past. I think it might be more helpful to use more specific definitions in more specific terms when we're having conversations like this, because a lot of the time I might agree with someone, but the way that we're using definitions leads to fundamental disagreement and confusion and miscommunication because we're trying to articulate the same idea, but we're doing it in completely different ways.
Well then, surely definitions, in this instance, are nothing but a pain in the ass. Earlier you mentioned the biology analogy.
Like if I'm trying to learn about biology, for example, and I need to learn a specific term, I wouldn't look in Merriam-Webster to get the most in-depth definition of that word. I would look in a biology textbook because that's going to be more useful.
I want to try and offer you a solution to this issue you have, because I think we both fundamentally agree on one thing. Due to the complications surrounding the possible definitions of feminism, and by extension the subsequent stigma that bad feminists have caused good feminists, whatever that means, you find topics that you'd otherwise agree with people on disagreeable. What we're talking about here is identity politics.
Identity politics? You mean like Gamergate? Or how about claiming that everything is stacked against men and white people, and especially white men? Or saying that Milo can't be a racist or homophobe because he's a gay Jewish man. Or that Blair White can't be transphobic because she's trans. Or that guy T can't be racist against black people, despite the fact that he has said racist things about black people and hangs around fascists. Or that anti-feminist women can't hold misogynistic views. The entire anti-feminist movement is about identity politics.
Oh, look at that. All this shit I never said and never gave indication of agreeing with. You really are a spastic, Danny. I'm thoroughly disappointed in the quality of your arguments in this video. Oh look, this trash guy said something. Let me get a ton of stuff other people said and have a go at him for it. You're a fucking idiot, mate. I mean that. Besides, I've heard more SJWs say blacks can't be racist when they say reverse racism isn't a thing, than white people saying that guy T can't hate blacks as a black man.
This...
sides-based thinking.
And it fucks things up on the regular, my sexy spectacle-wearing buttercup.
What's the betting that's the reason Danny made this video, and me calling Marina sexy? Just jealous that I called the chick whose profile picture you probably wank over regularly sexy? Never mind, mate. The white knight will pay off someday.
I'll make a bold statement. Feminism isn't science. Yeah, alright, there might be social science involved, but that, at best, is a considerably debatable science. You can go to your biology book for your definition of how the human body works because, for the most part, it's been absolutely scientifically tested and proven thousands of times by thousands of people.
Yep, I called it. He did a thunderfoot and claimed that sexual dimorphism explains everything in our culture.
Where on God's good green rotund earth name of fuck did you get that from? How? Just how?
Teal Deer also went that route. And of course, he plays that feminist social science isn't real science. Know who else makes a distinction between real science and fake science? Creationists. Observational science, or operational science, is said to be real science, and historical science is said to be fake science. Climate change deniers are also quite selective about what constitutes real science. They view climate science as junk science because it doesn't fit their narrative, and they also dismiss things like dendrochronology until they conventionally fit their narrative. Entire climate change denying blogs exist to nitpick for ambiguities in data and play God of the gaps by asserting that it proves that the Earth isn't just warming, just like anti-feminists do with any ambiguities or gaps in concrete observable data. They fill them in with, well, that just means sexism doesn't exist in today's world.
Never said that. And I've literally never said that sexual dimorphism explains everything in society. You're either being a dishonest cunt or fucking moronic. And feminism literally isn't a science. It's advocating for equal rights between men and women, as you well know. Where those who identify with the title are sometimes complete fucking lunatics. As with any group. Green men at traffic lights being turned into women, some dumb shit about children's books I tackled in an Irate Bear guest video a few weeks ago, and getting triggered over pet names, just to name a few, Danny. Sometimes more intelligent feminists use social science to back up their arguments. This is, objectively speaking, debatable science. Even in the most cuck-infested place like university, I study business and international management there, so there's a lot of stuff about culture and behaviour and motivation and shit, most of which is social science, right? And I'm regularly told when critiquing or breaking down the usefulness of an article to its core to consider whether or not social science can really ever understand and formulate into a perfect rule human behaviour. Particularly when we don't know our ass from our elbow when it comes to understanding how brains work in their entirety yet. If you handed a socially scientific article to me to disprove something I've said, Danny, I wouldn't turn it away and say, social science, you are fake news. I would happily read it and try to understand it. But if I see something that blatantly sticks out as a problem in the methodology, I'll question it as well. That's how we do things in big boy land, Daniel.
The place feminism is active is social issues. The discussion surrounding social issues should always be solely on whatever the social issue is about. To do that, you need to know what the problem is, relevant facts and figures, whether those facts and figures are fact-checked and legitimate, and if there's a context to them, what that context is and what the effect of it is, and probably some other shit as well.
In other words, the scientific method. Wait, you just said feminism isn't science. So if it's just about feelings, then how could these observations happen? You just contradicted yourself.
No, moron, you've just failed to understand my point. This, and that point I skipped earlier on, are leading up to my final point that we're going to get to in a second. So, like last time, we'll come back to this point.
What it doesn't need is, okay, let's open this discussion on whether or not the pay gap is due to women's free choice or sexist cis-white male scum employers being sexist cis-white male scum. Firstly, are you a radical feminist, an intersectional feminist, or an intererectional feminist? What the fuck has that got to do with anything? Who cares?
You're the ones always bringing up the wage gap, not us. You're the ones always trying to prove that there's no such thing as workplace discrimination, not us. If you have a problem with the anti-feminist obsession with trying to debunk the wage gap, take it up with them. The other stuff is just useless noise, so I won't even bother addressing it.
The other stuff is just useless noise, so I won't even bother addressing it.
Useless noise? You fucking imbecile. Bro! honestly, take the video down, right? Rewatch my video again, and then re-upload one where you actually understand my argument. Because this is honestly fucking embarrassing. I used the wage gap as a flippant example, right? That was not the main focus of the point at all. The main focus of the point was the useless noise you skip past because it wasn't worth your time, right? Again, all of this becomes clear when I make my final point. But as for that point that you mentioned, anti-fems always bring up that there's no wage gap. Dude, you could just as easily say feminists are always the ones bringing up the wage gap. And feminists are always the ones bringing up workplace discrimination, which you are. You are the ones that start this. We just respond and tell you why we don't think that's the case. That's how this works, Danny. Fuck.
We already have a definition for someone who wants equality for everyone, and that's egalitarian. Why can't that be enough for you? So, my genius solution? The term feminism? Fuck it off. Bye-bye. Bin it.
And there you go. That's where you should be realising that the majority of your response has been a complete waste of time. Now, earlier you asked,
So, what's exactly a hindrance? The unifying dictionary definition? Because that covers the basic idea of what feminism is for someone who asks, what is feminism? And needs or wants a quick answer. And it provides the basis for the different schools of feminism. Or are you saying that the different schools of feminism themselves are a hindrance? Does that mean that you want all feminists to be a monolith? Or are you saying that feminists of diverse ideas can't work together to accomplish something? In both cases, you would be wrong.
So to answer that now, I'm only suggesting that if we want to actually solve a problem, we should stop wasting time squabbling over what the dictionary definition of feminism is, and what all the different schools of feminism are, and which one of those we came from, and whether our two schools of feminism align, and simply just find a solution to the problem. Danny, if there was no term feminist, or no term anti-feminist, there would be no debate there. The only thing left for us to do would be to work together to solve issues. Next you said this.
Okay, let's open this discussion on whether or not the pay gap is due to women's free choice or sexist cis-white male scum employers being sexist cis-white male scum. Firstly, are you a radical feminist, an intersectional feminist, or an intererectional feminist? What the fuck has that got to do with anything? Who cares?
You're the ones always bringing up the wage gap, not us. You're the ones always trying to prove that there's no such thing as workplace discrimination, not us. If you have a problem with the anti-feminist obsession with trying to debunk the wage gap, take it up with them. The other stuff is just useless noise, so I won't even bother addressing it.
The other stuff is just useless noise, so I won't even bother addressing it.
Do you see the point I was making now? Replace the wage gap with any issue that inhibits equality in the world, right? Just call it problem X. Because what the issue is here isn't important to demonstrating my point. Now guys, let's deal with problem X. First of all, are you a radical feminist, an intersectional feminist, or an interectional feminist? Corny erection joke aside, what's the problem with this scenario? Here, I'll give you some thinking time. Right, fuck it, that's what you're getting. I haven't got all day. That's right. The problem isn't being solved. It's not even being talked about. This is just inefficient. So Danny, my video, summed up, was recognising and agreeing with Marina's concern over the difficulty with the definitions of feminism, and basically saying that the best way to combat this is to drop all worry about what we call ourselves and instead put our efforts into actually solving the issues feminism aims to solve. Or those that are relevant anyway. That's what the checklist was about before. You know, is the problem realistic? If you can't see my point there, Danny, I would have to argue that you simply have a die-hard boner for feminism that's lasted well over the 4 hours that you're supposed to wait before becoming concerned and going to the doctors.
Before we get started, I need to show you guys something.
Oh, Danny, for fuck's sake, I don't want to see that. And what are those weird black spots on it?
Ah, so that's why. It must be blood clots from your eternal boner for feminism. Well, I've learnt something today. Honestly, I'm disappointed that I finally get a response video off you. My first ever response video aimed at me. And it just completely misses the point and is weak as piss. It's like unwrapping a PlayStation 4 box on Christmas Day just to open the box and find the PlayStation removed and the box instead filled with socks. Fucking Teletubby socks. 0 out of 10, would not watch again. But, there's one more criticism that you brought up that I want to address before I leave you to think about what I've said.
Well, you can't delete the word entirely, but at least don't be so emotionally attached to it in arguments.
Egalitarian? You mean the word that's been hijacked by right-wing status quo misogynists like Red Pill Philosophy, Teal Deer, Sargon, TJ Kirk, Roosh V, and anyone who wants to virtue signal about how they're only against radical third-wave feminism? Here's a fun fact. You seem to hate the word feminist, but I'm assuming you're an atheist.
Sure.
And one of your heroes is Richard Dawkins.
Nope, never heard of him.
Well, I have some bad news for you, fella. Richard Dawkins identifies as a feminist.
Oh, absolutely gutting. Yeah, dumb point, mate. I don't believe in God. If that makes me an atheist, sure. Right? I believe everyone is equal. Egalitarian is the best fit for that, to me, right? I've never watched Richard Dawkins, and he's certainly no hero of mine. That's you being a spastic and assuming things because you can't tackle what I'm saying directly, isn't it? And as a result, you just set up straw man after straw man to make yourself feel better about releasing such a garbage video. Also, I read your description. Unfortunately, Dawkins has done some anti-feminist things, eh? Sounds like if Dawkins has let anyone down here, it's you, mate.
Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this, because I'm curious how you fall on the whole issue of, do you use the simplistic definition of feminism as simply being for gender equality, or do you think a more specific term, like identifying specifically as an intersectional feminist rather than basic-ass feminist?
Don't care. What issues are we talking about and how are we going to solve it? Those are the only two questions I'm interested in.
It's funny how you say you don't care, yet made a video response. Are you trying to be Sargon? Nah, Sargon at least tries to give off a vaguely intellectual vibe. Marina's entire channel answers your other question.
Dude, I was intrigued by Marina's video and wanted to add my opinion. You're acting like I attacked her. I thought I was very polite and reasonable. She said, let me know you guys' thoughts, and I had what I believe to be a valid solution. That's why I made the video. I think to most people that much is obvious. I think it's you that's just a bit special, mate.
Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Trash Alert went to the Ranting Monkey School of Selective Editing, as there are several portions of Marina's original video that were not included in this video response. Such as near the beginning of the video, where Marina brings up how, to further illustrate the point she's trying to make, using the basic Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of racism isn't quite as helpful as using a sociological definition, as using the latter takes into account power dynamics, legal history of race, the way racism is classified, and societal systems that play a role in racism.
Right, the definition of racism. And what were we talking about, Danny? Feminism. Go on, I'll let you finish. before I explain why I edited the video exactly the way I did.
Or near the end of the video, where she further elaborates on why solely using the dictionary definition of feminism isn't quite as helpful for fighting for equality, as there are several self-identified feminists that only focus on gender and ignore issues that women of color and trans women face, such as racism and transphobia.
Anyone can be feminist. Good, well-meaning people as you appear to be from this video, and absolute scumbag wank-stained poo-heads.
Do you know what anyone can be a feminist even means? You just contradicted yourself. While I'm not saying he had to show her entire video, the parts of the video Trash Alert cut added substance to Marina's argument and highlighted why she chose not to use the dictionary definition of feminism. And for this guy to leave those parts out highlights the dishonesty of not only Trash Alert, but people like Trash Alert and the anti-feminist community.
Yeah, it's not dishonest at all, mate, is it? The first part discussed racism. I don't think I need to explain to you that racism isn't the same as feminism. The ending that I cut was another reason why she didn't think that the dictionary definition was sufficient enough. Right at the start of my video, I already agreed with her on that notion when I said,
No, I don't reckon it is adequate. Mainly because defining any ideology simplistically is extremely difficult in practice because, in reality, the ideology of the individual is largely subjective.
As we discussed. Again, my point was to say, yes, I agree that the definition of feminism is too basic, and doesn't incorporate how every feminist thinks and acts. I also agree that it gets confusing when you start going into in-depth definitions with feminism, where you
Find topics that you'd otherwise agree with people on disagreeable.
Then I gave my solution, which was to stop worrying about definitions and to just focus on solving the actual problem. The two portions I cut didn't discredit that idea. Sure, I could have just included those bits just to say, yeah, cool, I agree. But this seems pointless, Danny. Now, before I leave you to consider this a lengthy video, I have some things to say to you directly, Danny. First of all, I respect that you do these videos. I can't lie to you, this was a pretty shocking attempt. But I'd much rather a shocking attempt in the hope that one day you'll get better and improve than you never trying at all. So thank you for this video nonetheless. Secondly, I like to try and be polite in these videos I make, and I'm aware that I haven't done that here, intentionally. I was more than polite to you last time with the irate bear video, and you responded by blocking me and slagging me off to all your Twitter friends. I meant it when I called you a spineless wanker to Charming Man 93, because that is a spineless thing to do. I've got no idea if you're interested in obtaining any respect from me or not. Probably not. But my previous offer for a live chat on Hangouts still applies. We can host it on either my channel or yours, it doesn't bother me at all. Alternatively, you could make another anti-trash video, or give me a reply in the comments. But Danny, if you attack me like this, and I respond, and then you ignore me for a second time, consider yourself a complete fucking dickhead. Love and respect to everyone who sat through this long ass video, and thanks again Danny for giving me a video to work with. Laters.
Why should I try to sound like y'all sound? That's what's wrong with the rap game right now. Man, it's like a circus with a bunch of clowns, with a bunch of clicks. I'll probably rap circles around.